Mike Hill, I don't know if you ever worked with some folks like this. You just like, or worked at a place like this where there's always drama. There's always drama in Philadelphia. And so James Harden has decided. That's right, David.
Yes, thank you. Let me stop you right there. Yes, that was a reality show. That was a reality show, man. I know, bro. I feel so bad for Joel Embiid, man, because this ain't the process he was looking for back in the day, bro. I mean, you think about this is the MVP of the league. Ben Simmons wanted out of Philadelphia. He gone. Now, James Harden wants out of Philadelphia. He gone. They lost their coach in Doc Rivers. They got in Nick Nurse. Things are supposed to be good in City of Brotherly Love, but now Joel Embiid's left answering these type of questions because James Harden can't get his ish together. James Harden needs to do like his shot and take a couple of steps back. You know what I mean? He needs to sit down somewhere because this is just going on too long. He wanted out of Houston. They gave him his wish. He wanted out of Brooklyn. They gave him his wish. Now he wants out of Philadelphia for something that seems so petty and meaningless. Now, I don't understand what's going on with him and Morey and all that type of stuff like that. I wish it would come out. But from the outside looking in, James Harden looks like a petulant child who needs to have several seats and just play his ass off in Philadelphia, and then maybe somebody will want him.
Hey, you know what? Hey, Gary, bring that Deadspin headline back. Bring us that, it's not often, bring back that Deadspin headline. It's not often that a headline just makes me laugh like this. Okay, look at this. You said the headline, Deadspin. James Harden works harder than anyone at avoiding hard work. That's the headline. Now listen to the subhead. The beard continues to be untrustworthy, intellectually dishonest, and an overall bad teammate, and those are his good qualities, they say at this point. So, look, I agree. James Harden, okay, that's one way of looking at it, and I appreciate that perspective. On the other hand, Rita, I think this is what happened. And James Harden will eventually say it. He's all but said it, but he stopped short. He feels like they promised him something.
Yep.
It wasn't like a wink, wink. They probably told him, hey, you come here, we gonna take care of you, we're gonna get you a deal. And when the deal didn't happen, now he's pissed and he's like, it can't be repaired. Look, most of the time, Rita, if you're driving by, I hope you're driving by and not stopping, but you're driving by and you see two people arguing, they usually arguing over money. They're arguing over money. Hey, listen, hey, wait a minute, no. You better hold, you said you was gonna hold that for a couple days. It's been a couple months. Where's my money? Hey, wait a minute. Let me count this. What's up? So, I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. They agreed to a deal, and James Harden didn't have it on paper. So now Daryl Morey's like, hey, okay. I think that's what we're talking about, Rita. Just a bad financial deal.
I don't know, because and that might be true, right? But I'm going back to your point of when people are arguing, it's about money, and that's mainly true, right? But sometimes it's about breaking promises, right? Like, people take people's word for it, and when somebody reneges on their word, they feel some type of way, and an argument ensues, right? And Mike, I agree with you in the sense that it probably, to us on the outside, it looks very petty. We don't know what it is, but it feels minuscule. But to James Harden, it does not feel that way for him, right? Now, maybe it is him just trying to get out of work. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he said that that man told him one thing and did something else, and he is standing 10 toes down in his petty. Now, listen, I don't know. We can say whatever we want about James Harden. You're lazy. You don't want to do this. You done found your way out of everybody. But one thing we cannot say, that man has stood 10 toes down into what it is that he said at this moment. Until he shows up to Philly, he said he wasn't playing with them, and he's, as of right now, I mean, the season is about to start in just a couple of days, and he is nowhere to be found. And I'm with you guys. Like, well, what part of the trust the process was this? Because if hypothetically speaking, Morey is telling people one thing and doing something else, then that's bad business. And I'm not saying that they can't fix this and they can't do this right, because GMs do this all the time, right? This is what happens a lot. But if somebody is saying, I'm standing on that because this is what you said, it becomes problematic here.
It felt Rita and Mike. Here's the thing: this is NBA. It's a business. The GMs say that all the time. They say the agents or whatever all the time. This happens. Yep. James Harden would do himself a favor if he actually came out and basically said exactly what has been said behind the bat. I don't know if it's against the rules, some tampering or whatnot, how it's going to affect the NBA or whatever. But he would be better off by putting everything on Morey and putting the blame on him instead of seeming like the petulant child himself. And here's the thing right now. Morey looked at this situation and said, well, James, maybe you ain't worth it. If you think about it, you're not worth the money. You ain't. If this is Giannis asking for that, okay. If this is Joel Embiid asking for this, okay. Kevin Durant, okay. James Harden, you're not the player you used to be, bro. You ain't the scoring champ you used to be. Now, you as a matter of fact, some days, on some playoff games, you ain't been showing up. And you ain't delivered what we hoped you would deliver when you was with Philadelphia with Joel Embiid when you had the MVP at your beck and call. So now if you look at the trade that is reportedly going down with Terrence Mann, the Clippers don't want to give up Terrence Mann and a couple of first-round picks that won't mean anything at the end of the day because the Clippers and Philadelphia 76ers are going to be good in the first round. But Terrence Mann, that lets you know your value, and that's the team that you want to go to. The Clippers don't need you, bruh. They don't need you. So they're going to make an offer for you, and they say Terrence Mann a couple of further. And the Sixers said, nah, that's not good enough. That lets you know where your value is right now, James Harden. So maybe you just need to shut up and play basketball and show people that you can still play at an elite level.
Yep.
Or maybe that's his value, or maybe it's just the Sixers being stubborn and his value. The Clippers have his value exactly right. And Philadelphia might be messing around with this thing a little bit. You know, it might be like Terrence Mann for James Harden might be exactly right, but who knows what Philadelphia is asking for.
I wouldn't give it up. If I'm the Clippers, I wouldn't give up Terrence Mann for him, to be honest with you. I would.
But
I love Terrence Mann.
But this is what I want to do. You know, Mike Hill, I want to get up in your business. Let's get a shot on Mike
Everybody
Hill.
else is. They bought all the blogs.
That's right. I might as well join the crowd.
Yeah.
I want to join the crowd. Let's give Mike Hill a full shot. I want to get him Mike Hill's shot because I can see right behind Mike, and when everybody else is see it, you see that Giants helmet. And so we talked about this before. Mike Hill is a Giants fan, so we got to talk about the Giants. Speaking of not worth it, speaking of brokenness, let's talk about the Giants. And I want to ask you, just as a Giants fan, because I feel like something is unfair here. Last year, Brian Daboll took over a team that was not very good, and they made the playoffs. Nobody expected them to make the playoffs. They make the playoffs last year. Daboll's coach of the year. This year, now the Giants look like the team that we expected them to be last year. And I have to read a headline about Brian Daboll in year 2 being on the hot seat. Hot seat for what? Hot seat for what? I don't agree with this at all, given what he inherited. But I need to ask a Giants fan. Sometimes I don't understand what y'all be thinking, so I'll ask you.
The Giants fans didn't write that headline. That's the idiotic media in New York that oversaturates and over.
Who's a Giants fan?
They are Giants.
They are.
I mean, but that's what happens, man. And that's why I say only certain players and certain coaches can play and coach in New York City. You can coach and play anywhere else in the National Football League, NBA, Major League Baseball. When you come to New York City, it's a different animal. I used to work in New York City as well as be a big fan. I've seen and heard some of the media members say, I'm going to kill him tomorrow. I'm going to say this because they take it personally a lot of times. That's one of the things I hated about the New York media. There is no way in the world that Daboll should be getting any criticism for the way this team is playing this year. We talked about this a little bit last week, I believe, Mike, when we were talking about the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants were playing with fool's gold because if you look at how they won their games last year, they won a lot of those games coming back in the second half, making adjustments, which Daboll was responsible for, but they won a lot of close games and they got into the playoffs, and they just happened to beat another team like the Minnesota Vikings, which was the worst 13-win team in the history of the NFL in the playoffs last year. So this year, when you come back and you got Daniel Jones, who's still a mediocre quarterback, not a good quarterback, Saquon coming off the injury, and you got an offensive line that is porous, that is terrible, that is the worst I've seen in a long time and can't stay healthy. And even when they do protect Daniel Jones, the wide receivers can't get any separation for anybody for him to throw to. That leads to a recipe for disaster. It is incredulous. It is embarrassing. It is downright insane that the Giants have gone 6 games without scoring an offensive touchdown in the first half. This is one of the worst offenses. This is the worst offense in the NFL right now, and one of the worst offenses I've ever seen in my lifetime.
So you weren't there when the 2000 Ravens went 6 games without a touchdown.
But you know what? Here's the thing. They did enough to win. They had a defense that was able to overcome that. As long as, Trent Dilfer and the crew didn't throw interceptions and cause them the game. The Giants backing up, not giving 3 and outs, not giving the defense a rest, not turning the football over. The defense is not helping. The special teams is just as horrible. So it's a recipe for disaster. Your offense got to give you something in order for the other 2 units to keep you in the football game.
I agree with him. I mean, who is the person that's shopping for the groceries, like Bill Parcells used to say? Because they obviously got to get some help here. The offensive line is bad. Like you said, there's no separation. Saquon is essentially the star on this team, and if you can find a way to get him out of it, or if he's not playing because he's not healthy, then you obviously have a chance. I don't love Wink Martindale. I know all about him. He was the defensive coordinator with the Ravens. He loves cover zeros way too much for my liking, even though he does have really good players on the defensive side of the ball. I think sometimes outside of that Bills game, because I do think that they played defensively, they played really well for that Bills game. But there's times they were hitting hard and everything, but there's times where I feel like he makes some ill-advised calls in that regard, and he's not doing his team as a whole due diligence by helping them out. So, I mean, look, you're right. I mean, Daniel Jones is who he is. They decided that they wanted to stick with him after the season that they had. It's between a rock and a hard place there, because do you let him go and then try to start over, or do you do what you do and keep him? But ultimately, if you're going to keep a guy like Daniel Jones, you have to protect him, one, and you have to give him some out of this world players. I would have traded for Devontae Adams, something. I would have done something to help this guy look better than what you, me, whoever else has seen Daniel Jones prior to 2022 bringing him back looks like. And I don't think that they did that for him at all.
But I'll say that, and I want to just put this in. Shout out, I wanted to do this last week or earlier this week. I didn't get around to it. Shout out, by the way, Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor is just that dude. Yeah. He's that dude. You just throw him in there. He can just stabilize. Like, hey, Tyrod, it's chaotic over there. Can you do something about it? Hey, I got it. Listen,
I will say this. The Giants' offense looked better.
Get worse.
They did.
With Tyrod Taylor running the show than with Daniel Jones. The only bonehead play he made was at the end of the first half with that running play. That was outrageous. But Tyrod and the offense looked much better with him.
Yeah, he is not a superstar. He never will be a superstar, but he knows the assignment and usually does what he's supposed to do. Now, this is what I just said is what Deion Sanders is very frustrated about, that maybe his Colorado team knows the assignment, but they don't do what they're supposed to do. Mike, I know before last time we were on, was before I think Colorado played Stanford at home.
Oh, God. Yeah.
They go up 29-0 at halftime. They're up 29-0 at halftime, and then all of a sudden they lose that game. It's just shocking that they lost to Stanford after being up by 29. And so I said earlier, I said to Lawrence Jackson that Deion has a lot in common with some of the coaches who are his rivals, and some of the coaches who probably look at him and say, we don't do it that way. No, maybe on the surface, Deion is different, but Deion is trying to tap in and motivate young men just like y'all are. And Deion finds himself puzzled at times of messaging, of getting the message across and what really is important to these young men. Mike, I know you follow this stuff so closely as well as anyone. Do you see the Colorado Buffaloes getting 2 more wins left this season with the schedule they have and the way they perform?
I said when I came on the show last week that it was imperative. I said it was imperative that the Colorado Buffaloes win 2 games for sure. They needed 6. That was the Stanford game. That was a winnable game. And I felt like Arizona, at the time, I felt like they could have been a winnable game because every other team was ranked. They got UCLA, Oregon State, Washington State, and Utah. And right now, I don't see a path to 6 games for this Colorado football team. Now, I know they're on a bye. UCLA has a hell of a defense. I will say that. Now, this offense can formulate some kind of offense against that UCLA defense. They might have a chance because UCLA has a true freshman quarterback that can make mistakes every time. He's dynamic. He's going to be an excellent quarterback in the next couple of years. That could be a win. The Oregon State game, no. Arizona, possibly. Washington State hasn't been playing well lately, so maybe that. But Utah, at the end of the season, I don't see how Utah has their own quarterback issues right now. So, yeah, I think it's been a fascinating story. It's a great story, and you got bowls like the Peach Bowl already reaching out to Colorado because they want them to be in the bowl game, but they got to get that 6 right now. And right now, because of that Stanford debacle, when you blow a 29-point lead at home and lose in overtime, when you can't stop Stanford. I'm talking about Stanford. I'm not talking about Oregon. I'm not talking about Washington. I'm talking about Stanford, one of the worst teams in the league in college football. You blow that, you may have blown your chances of going to a college football bowl game this season.
I'm with Mike that UCLA is very possible in terms of a win, because I do think the UCLA is up and down in that regard. Arizona potentially as well. So it's not out of, it's possibly still there, but now they put their backs against the wall with losing to Stanford the way that they did. And look, USC can tell you all about what it's like playing against Stanford, right? They give them hell every single time they play. Right. So they know all about it. The dude for Stanford that had the game that he had 207 yards for the whole season prior to that game, and then they had 296 yards. So that just tells you that Colorado just was like, oh, 29, nothing, we got this. This is over. And look, I didn't love the fact. So back to your point about Deion motivating these guys, and that's fine if you want to say that these guys weren't as motivated, but Deion got to take some of this too. Justin Hunter should not be in a position, Travis Hunter should not be in a position where he is playing as many snaps as he played coming on his first game back. And he got to take some accountability for that. I feel like that he pushed that man a little too far on his first game back, but ultimately that's a game that you have to win. But I do think UCLA is one that you could put an asterisk next to, because I don't think that they're as good as advertised. And I'm with you too in terms of Utah. Is Cam Rising playing? Is he not playing? What's going on with them? Right. So I really don't know. But there's still a possibility, because that offense is prolific and they can move the ball, that they can get 2 wins. It's just going to be hard, man. It really is at this point.
Mike, I got 2 points I can make if I can.
Go ahead. Yeah, you got it.
And she made a good point with Travis Hunter playing both sides of the football, coming back from that injury, not being winded, and having to guard Io Manor or trying to. I think he got exposed a little bit from the defensive back position. I've heard other coaches coming out say he takes a lot of chances. People want to throw in his way because he's such a tremendous athlete, and he had a great game on the offensive side of the football. So he obviously was winded because he had a lot of targets there. So I think he was exposed a little bit, and maybe he needs to cut back on that. The good thing for Colorado, though, nobody's talking about, is that nobody's talking about Colorado right now. And since nobody's talking about Colorado because some of the hype has come off of Colorado and nobody's over covering and oversaturating them, and I know they're on a bye this week, maybe, just maybe, they can sneak up on a couple of people because other teams might not be bringing their best and being just as, hey, this is, everybody's wanting to talk about Colorado. We got to shut them down. You got Dan Lanning giving a pregame speech talking about we're about wins, they're about clicks and all that type of stuff like that. So the motivation going up against Colorado may be down just a little bit. Not saying that they're going to overlook them or whatnot, but because America has stopped jumping on the bandwagon, especially the media when it comes to Colorado just a little bit, and that can come back. I think that is going to help them in the long run.
All right, so last thing here before we go and then move on, Mike, and always great to have you on, Mike. So tell us, like, the most, what was the drama that was the most interesting at ESPN? I mean, you already threw it out there, so now you teased us all. What was the one? Like, see, you're trying to music. Don't be running. We can get the music going.
I wrote a book. I can read you some excerpts from the book. It's in there. Open mic in bookstores, Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, Target.com. Go open mic. Look, bro, I got told a couple of things from a media personnel person that will blow your mind. One of the heads of ESPN said something about, I will treat you fairly but not equally. A lot of stuff. So it's all in the book. Go get it. It's still on sale.
Ooh, oh,
That's
open mic.
Right there.
Open mic. And look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you all swole up on there. Is that a real photo? Is that real? Is that Photoshop?
I had the baby oil working for me that day.
Mike Hill, always good to see you, man. Take care, brother.
A pleasure, man.
I'm nosy, so I'm getting that book.
Oh, yeah, we got to get it. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.